Today, we're going to dig into a belief that, let's be honest, seems totally absurd on its surface. But if you look closer, it actually reveals something really profound about the world we're living in right now. It's a theory that forces us to question, well, not the shape of the planet, but the very nature of belief, trust, and even reality itself.
So let's just get right to it. Why? Why do people still believe the Earth is flat? And look, it's easy to just kind of laugh that question off. But the answer is so much more complicated than just saying, oh, they don't know science. It's really a story about history, about psychology, and of course, about the internet.
To really get a handle on the modern flat Earth movement, we have to start by busting a myth about the myth itself. Because as it turns out, the story that most of us were told about the history of this idea, yeah, it's pretty much a complete fabrication.
All right, so let's jump into our first section. This is where we really have to deconstruct a super popular narrative, one that has totally shaped how we see the past, and because of that, how we see what's happening today.
So yeah, you can just forget that whole story about Christopher Columbus being afraid he was going to sail off the edge of the world. That's a myth. Educated people have known the Earth was a sphere since the time of ancient Greece. So where did this idea of our supposedly ignorant flat-earthing ancestors even come from? Well, it was pretty much invented in the 19th century.
And why? Why would they make this up? It had nothing to do with being historically accurate. It was all about creating this really sharp contrast between a supposedly superstitious, ignorant past and their own enlightened, scientific present. As these researchers put it, the story gave their time a sweet sense of superiority. It was just a way to pat themselves on the back and feel way more advanced.
Okay, so if this belief isn't some ancient idea that just managed to stick around, where in the world did the modern movement come from? Well, the answer takes us on this really strange journey through the last couple of centuries, where the idea was basically reinvented over and over again.
You can kind of think of the idea as having three completely different lives. First, it was used as that historical insult we just talked about. Then, it got picked up by these esoteric groups who argued that the only real truth is what you can see and test for yourself. But its third life, that's the one that really matters for us today. When the space age kicked off, the idea totally morphed into a full-blown conspiracy theory, with people claiming NASA was faking photos and hiding the real truth. And this brings us to the really fascinating part, the psychology. This is the engine that is driving the movement today. You know, if you just dismiss believers as uneducated, you are missing the entire point. The real issue here is a fundamental, deep breakdown in trust.
A huge piece of this puzzle is something researchers call the conspiracy mentality. Now, this isn't about believing in one specific theory. It's much, much bigger than that. It's a whole worldview. It's this deep, generalized distrust of any official institution, the government, science, the media, and this feeling that there are powerful, hidden forces just pulling all the strings.
And, the data absolutely backs this up. One study actually went and surveyed people at a flat Earth conference, and it found that they scored dramatically higher on this conspiracy mentality scale compared to just a national sample of people. Their starting point isn't curiosity, it's a deep, deep suspicion.
And this is so important to understand. This deep distrust just shapes their entire perception of information. From the outside looking in, it might seem like they're just being gullible, but from their perspective, it feels like the exact opposite.
In fact, get this, that same study found that flat Earth believers rate themselves as way more skeptical and logical than the general public. In their own minds, they aren't the ones falling for a lie. They truly believe they are the only ones brave enough to question the official story. They see themselves as the true critical thinkers.
So how does that work in your brain? Well, it's powered by this psychological phenomenon called motivated reasoning. Basically, when you see information that conflicts with one of your core beliefs, like you can't trust the government, it creates this uncomfortable feeling. So to get rid of that discomfort, you just tend to reject the new information. For a flat earther, a photo from NASA isn't proof against their belief, it's just more proof that NASA is part of the conspiracy.
This mindset means they prioritize certain kinds of proof. They trust what they can see and feel with their own two eyes. Water in a glass is flat, so the oceans must be flat too. They can't feel the planet spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. These personal experiences feel way more real and trustworthy than some abstract data from an institution like NASA, which, remember, they've already decided is lying to them. For some, a literal reading of the Bible also serves as this undeniable source of truth. So you've got this psychology of deep distrust. What happens when you throw the modern internet into that mix?
Well, a fringe belief suddenly goes viral.
I mean, digital platforms and YouTube in particular have been like pouring gasoline on this fire. They don't just host the videos, their algorithms actively introduce people to the idea and then connect them with this really thriving, really supportive online community.
In this quote from a conference attendee just says it all. A lot of people don't go looking for flat earth theory. They start somewhere else, maybe watching videos about 9/11 conspiracies, and then the YouTube algorithm just does the rest. It starts serving up flat earth videos in their recommended feed, and it pulls them deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And this is where the flat earth idea turns into what one researcher calls a superconspiracy. It stops being just one theory among many and becomes the master key, the one grand theory that can unlock and explain all the other ones.
And suddenly, everything connects into one single story. The moon landing was faked to hide the dome over the Earth. A secret group of elites uses the globe lie to control all of us. From this point of view, COVID, chemtrails, all these other things, they aren't separate conspiracies. They are all just pieces of the same single colossal deception. And look, before you write this off as just a tiny, tiny fringe group, check this out. A 2018 poll found that 11% of Americans, that's more than 1 in 10, said they were not certain the Earth is round. This suggests there's a much broader erosion of trust happening and a growing willingness to doubt even the most basic established facts. So here it is. This is the crucial point, the main thing to take away from all of this. The whole flat Earth debate, it's almost never actually about the shape of the planet. It's a vehicle. The arguments about gravity and curvature are just secondary. The real debate is about who you trust, who holds authority, and whether the institutions that run our world are telling us the truth. And that really forces us to ask a pretty big and honestly, a kind of unsettling question. In an age of deep institutional distrust and digital echo chambers, what does it even take for all of us to share a common reality? The flat Earth theory might seem like it's about geography, but its growing appeal suggests it's really about the fractured map of trust in our society today.